It was a hot afternoon in the city. People were rushing on the streets, but inside the restaurant, everything was calm. The cool air, soft music, and smell of fresh food made the place feel warm and welcoming. Sarah, a young waitress, was moving quickly between tables. She wore a simple black uniform and had her hair tied back. She looked tired, but her face had a soft smile. She had been working in this restaurant for 2 years. Every day, she came on time, worked hard, and went home late. Her life was not easy, but she never complained. She needed this job for her sick mother and younger brother. On table 6, an old couple was laughing. On table 3, a boy was taking pictures of his burger. Life looked happy there. Then the door opened. A tall woman entered the restaurant, wearing expensive clothes, shiny heels, and dark sunglasses. Her name was Mrs. Zoya. She was rich, proud, and full of attitude. Everyone in the restaurant turned to look at her. Sarah noticed her too. She quickly walked over with a menu. "Good afternoon, Mom," Sarah said kindly. Zoya didn't reply. She took off her sunglasses slowly and looked at Sarah from head to toe. "Hurry up," Zoya said in a cold voice. "I don't have time." Sarah smiled again, hiding her nervousness. "Of course, ma'am. Please take a seat. Would you like some water?" Zoya sat down without saying thank you. Sarah brought her a glass of water and stood ready with a pen and notepad. "I'll have the grilled chicken," Zoya said. "No onions. No mistakes." "Yes, ma'am," Sarah said. She repeated the order clearly and walked away to the kitchen. Inside the kitchen, she gave the order to the chef, reminding him, "No onions on this one." 15 minutes later, the food was ready. Sarah carefully checked the plate and walked back to Zoya's table. "Here you go, Mom," she said, placing the plate gently. Zoya looked at the food with sharp eyes. She picked up her fork, moved a few vegetables, and then she froze. "There are onions," she whispered. Sarah leaned forward. There were 3 tiny pieces of onion hidden under the chicken. "Oh, I'm really sorry, ma'am. I'll change the plate right away." But before Sarah could lift the plate, it happened. Slap! The sound of the slap echoed in the restaurant. Everyone turned to look. A few people stood up. The kitchen staff came out. Sarah stood there, one hand on her cheek. Her eyes were wide, but she didn't cry. Her lips trembled, but she stayed silent. "You call this service? Disgusting!" Zoya shouted. "You people are useless." The manager rushed out. "Ma'am, please calm down. She should be fired." Zoya screamed. "How dare she serve me this trash?" Sarah took a step back. Her hands were shaking, but she didn't speak. She picked up the plate and quietly walked to the kitchen. In one corner of the restaurant, near the window, sat a man no one had noticed. He was wearing a plain shirt, had a small notebook in his hand, and was drinking black coffee. He had seen everything, from Sarah's smile to Zoya's slap. He didn't move. He didn't speak. He just smiled. Not the kind of smile you give when you're happy. It was the kind of smile that hides a plan. He took out a pen, wrote something in the notebook, and placed a heavy tip under his cup. As he walked past the manager, he whispered, "This isn't over." Back in the kitchen, Sarah washed her face. Her cheek was red, her eyes filled with tears, but they didn't fall. Another waitress came to her. "Are you okay?" Sarah nodded slowly. It's not the first time. She looked outside the kitchen window. Zoya was still shouting. The manager was trying to calm her down. Sarah whispered to herself, "People like her never stop." But deep down, something inside her had changed. This time, it hurt more. Not just the slap, but the feeling of being helpless again. Meanwhile, the stranger left the restaurant. He looked back once, then disappeared into the crowd. Sarah didn't know his name. She didn't know what he had written. But soon, her life would change forever. Narration, voiceover. That one slap was not just pain. It was the start of something bigger. something no one saw coming. Outside the restaurant, the stranger walked slowly on the busy street. His name was Ryan. No one in the restaurant knew who he was, but Ryan knew who Zoya was. He had waited a long time to see her again. Now, after all these years, he had seen her, shouting, full of pride, and slapping an innocent girl. He smiled to himself. "She hasn't changed," he whispered. But this time, Ryan had a plan. Back in the restaurant, Sarah was still trying to stay calm. Her cheek was still red. Her hands felt cold. But she didn't cry. The manager gave her a short break. She sat alone near the staff room, staring at the floor. Zoya had left after making a big scene. People had whispered about it for some time, but now things were back to normal. Sarah closed her eyes for a moment. Her phone buzzed. It was a message from her younger brother. "Amy's medicine is finished. Can you bring it today?" Sarah took a deep breath. "Yes, I will," she replied. No matter what happened, she had to keep going. For her mother, for her brother. She couldn't afford to lose this job, but something strange was about to happen. That night, the cleaning boy found a note under one of the coffee cups on table 9. There was also a heavy tip, more than 5,000 rupees. The note said, "For the girl who was slapped. She didn't deserve it. They will pay soon." He gave the note to the manager. The manager read it and looked confused. "Who left this?" "The man on table 9, said the cleaning boy. "He was watching everything." The manager looked at Sarah. She was cleaning tables, quietly doing her work like always. He didn't show her the note, but the words stayed in his mind. Next morning, Sarah walked into the restaurant early. The manager called her. "You're getting attention," he said. Sarah frowned. "Me?" He nodded. "Someone called today. He asked about you." "Who?" "He didn't give a name," the manager replied. "But he said he might have a better job for you." Sarah was shocked. "Why would anyone offer me a job? I don't know anyone rich." The manager shrugged. "He said he'll come tomorrow. Maybe it's real. Maybe not." Sarah didn't know what to think. Meanwhile, Ryan was sitting in a small room filled with old files, photographs, and news articles. On the wall, there was a photo of a younger Zoya, wearing simple clothes, smiling with a man beside her. The man in the photo was Ryan. Years ago, Zoya and Ryan had known each other very well. She was not rich back then. She was kind, soft-spoken, and full of dreams. But something happened. Something that changed everything. She left him, took something that wasn't hers. And now she was hurting others, like Sarah. Ryan couldn't forget the past, but he didn't want revenge in the usual way. He wanted something deeper. He picked up his phone and made a call. "Yes, I found her. She's still the same. But there's someone else now. The girl she slapped. Her name is Sarah. She's different." The person on the phone asked something. Ryan replied, "Yes, help her first. And then, we'll deal with Zoya." The next day, Sarah came to work early again. She was nervous. She didn't know who the stranger was. She didn't know if the job offer was real. At 10:30 a.m., a man in a gray suit entered the restaurant. He walked to the counter and asked, "Is Sarah here?" The manager pointed to her. Sarah came forward, confused. "Yes." The man gave her a card. "My boss wants to meet you. He saw what happened that day. He believes you deserve better." Sarah looked at the card. There was no name, only a number and an address. She didn't know whether to trust it. But her heart told her something was about to change. That evening, she stood outside the address written on the card. It was a tall building. Simple, quiet, but clean. She walked in slowly. At the top floor, the door opened. And there he was, the same man from table 9. Ryan. He smiled gently. "Hello, Sarah. I've been waiting to meet you." Sarah looked at him, surprised. "Why me?" she asked. Ryan looked at her with serious eyes. "Because I saw something that day. and I believe you are stronger than you think." Sarah had no idea what was coming next, but her life was no longer the same. The sun was rising. A soft breeze touched the city, and the streets were slowly waking up. Inside a small cafe, the smell of fresh chai and baked bread filled the air. Sarah stood behind the counter, wearing a clean apron, but this time not as a worker. She was now the owner. 1 year had passed since the court case. Zoya Malik had disappeared from the news. Her company was gone, her power silent. Sarah never saw her again, and she didn't need to. The past was over. The pain had taught her many lessons, but it had also given her something new: strength. Ryan walked into the cafe, holding a small bouquet. For the boss, he smiled, placing the flowers on the counter. Sarah laughed. "You're still teasing me." "No," he said. "I'm serious. You're doing great. Look at this place." The cafe was full. Families, students, workers, all enjoying the calm space Sarah had built. The walls had soft art. The staff looked happy. There was kindness in the air. And Sarah knew this is what Zoya could never build. Because power built on pain never lasts. But power built on love never breaks. Outside, Sarah's mother arrived with Hamza. Amy now smiled more. Her eyes no longer looked tired. She walked in, proud and tall. "Breakfast is on me," she said loudly. Everyone laughed and clapped. Sarah rushed to hug her. "You taught me to be strong, Amy," her mother replied, "and you reminded me of my own strength." Later that evening, Sarah sat alone near the window. She opened a notebook and began writing. To every girl who was told she was too small, to every woman who was made to feel weak, remember, you are not broken. You are becoming. Tears touched her cheeks, but they were happy tears. Because this wasn't the end. This was a new beginning. Meanwhile, Ryan opened a new office for a nonprofit group. He named it Voice of the Silent, helping women stand again after injustice. And guess who was the face of their first poster? Sarah, smiling, simple, and strong. Not because she was famous, but because she was real. One day, a young girl walked into the cafe. She looked nervous, holding a resume in her hand. Sarah smiled. "Looking for work?" The girl nodded. Sarah took the paper and said, "Come, let's talk." She remembered her own first day. She remembered the fear and the slap. But she also remembered the fire that came after. Now it was her turn to lift someone else. Because that's how change begins. One voice, one step, one brave girl at a time. Narration, voiceover. Power is not in money, not in shouting, not in hurting others. Real power is in standing up when you are alone, in speaking truth when it's hard, and in helping others rise, even when you are still healing. Sarah sat across from Ryan in the quiet office. She looked around. The place was simple but nice. White walls, clean floor, a few books on the shelf. Nothing too fancy, but peaceful. Ryan placed a cup of tea in front of her. "I know you're confused," he said gently. "And you don't know me, but I know what happened that day." Sarah lowered her eyes. The memory of the slap still hurt, not just on her face, but in her heart. "Why do you want to help me?" she asked softly. Ryan leaned back in his chair. "Because I've seen people like her before, and I know what they do to people like you, the ones who stay silent and suffer." Sarah didn't reply. Her fingers played with the edge of the teacup. Ryan continued, "But you're not weak, Sarah. You're stronger than you think." Those words stayed with her. That night, Sarah went home, a small 2-room flat in a quiet part of the city. Inside, her younger brother Hamza, just 12 years old, was helping their mother sit up in bed. Their mother looked very weak, but she smiled when she saw Sarah. "You're late today," she said. Sarah smiled. "I had something important after work." She handed over the medicine and some food. Then she sat on the floor, next to her mother's bed. Hamza looked excited. "Epa, guess what? I got full marks in maths." Sarah hugged him tightly. "I'm so proud of you, Hamza." She looked at her mother, who was coughing lightly. Her eyes were tired, and her hands were cold. Sarah had been the head of the house since she was just 17. Her father had died in an accident 5 years ago. From that day, her life had changed. She had to stop studying. She found a job as a waitress, and since then, every day had been a fight. For money, food, rent, and medicine. But she never told anyone. Not her friends, not her boss, and definitely not strangers. That's why Rayan's kindness had surprised her. Why would someone like him care? The next morning, Ryan sent a car to pick Sarah up. He had offered her a job in his office as a personal assistant. Better pay, better hours, and a safer environment. But Sarah was unsure. She didn't want charity. At the office, she asked him directly, "Why this job? Why me?" Ryan didn't hide anything. "I'm not doing charity, Sarah. I'm building something. A new project. A place that helps people like you, people who've been mistreated. I need someone strong, someone honest. I need someone like you." Sarah thought for a moment. She remembered how Zoya had looked at her, like she was nothing. And now, this man was offering her respect. For the first time in a long time, Sarah felt seen. "I'll try," she said softly. "But I'm not perfect." Rayan smiled. "I'm not looking for perfect. I'm looking for real." Later that week, Sarah started her new job. She was nervous at first. New desk, new people, new world. But every time she felt scared, she remembered her mother's smile and Hamza's laughter. Rayan didn't treat her like a servant. He treated her like a person. She started gaining confidence. Her clothes changed. Her posture changed. But her heart was still soft. One evening, she was filing documents in the office when she saw a familiar name on one of the files. Zoya Malik. Her heart skipped a beat. She stared at the file. It was a business report. Zoya's company was in trouble. Deep financial trouble. Sarah didn't understand much, but she saw red lines, loss charts, and urgent stamps. Why was this file here? She closed the folder quickly. Ryan entered the room. He saw her holding the file. "You found it," he said calmly. Sarah looked at him. "Why do you have her file?" Ryan took a deep breath. "Because Zoya was once close to me. And she did something unforgivable." Sarah felt confused. "You know her?" Ryan nodded slowly. "I knew her before the money, before the pride, before she became this." He didn't say more, but Sarah could feel it. Something was deeply connected between them. And now, maybe, between her and Zoya too. That night, Sarah sat at her rooftop, looking at the stars. She whispered to herself, "Life is strange." She had gone from being slapped to sitting in a quiet office, to holding a file with her enemy's name on it. But she still didn't understand one thing. Why did her heart feel like this wasn't just about a slap? Why did it feel personal? Narration, voiceover. Sarah thought her pain was only her own. But soon, she would learn. Her past and Zoya's past were not strangers. They were tied together by something neither of them remembered. The city looked the same. Busy roads, loud traffic, shining buildings. But inside Zoya Malik's world, everything was falling apart. She sat at her office desk, staring at the legal notice again and again. Her hands shook, but her face stayed cold. "How dare they challenge me?" she whispered. "Me?" But deep in her heart, she knew this time was different. This was not gossip. This was not a small complaint. This was war, and it was legal, loud, and strong. At the same time, Sarah stood outside the courtroom with Ryan. She wore simple clothes, but she looked powerful, her chin high, her eyes clear. "This is the same building where my mother cried years ago," she said. Ryan looked at her with pride. "Today, It's where you'll make her proud. Sarah nodded. Let's finish what Zoya started. Inside the court, the case was presented. Zoya's financial documents were examined. Employees gave witness statements. Emails, contracts, recordings, all were shown. Sarah didn't speak much. She let the truth speak for her. One by one, people Zoya had hurt came forward. I was made to clean floors after a small mistake, one man said. She insulted my accent in front of clients, said another woman. She slapped me in front of my son, said a mother, holding back tears. Zoya sat frozen, her lawyer helpless. This wasn't just about business now. It was about how she treated people. And the court listened. Days passed. The news spread fast. Businesswoman Zoya Malik under legal fire. Waitress turned fighter. Sarah's brave stand. Truth versus power. A courtroom battle. The internet buzzed with support. People shared their own stories about Zoya. Strangers messaged Sarah, thanking her for speaking up. Sarah had become more than a waitress. She was now a voice for many. One morning, Zoya came to court looking tired. No makeup, no loud voice. The judge read the final order. Her company would be shut down for fraud and employee abuse. She would pay heavy fines. And she could not run any business for 5 years. It was over. Zoya closed her eyes. No camera flashes, no reporters cheering, just silence. The same silence she had given to others when they cried for help. Outside, Sarah stood under the sun. She looked up and smiled. Rayan came beside her. You did it, he said. Sarah shook her head. We did it. And Amy did it. She raised me strong. Back home, her mother hugged her for a long time. No words, just love. Hamza made tea for everyone. The little home was now filled with pride. Not money, not revenge, but peace. A few days later, Zoya visited an old building. It was the shelter for women Rayan had helped build. She didn't speak, just stood near the gate. Sarah saw her from the balcony. They looked at each other, no shouting, no anger, just eyes full of history. Zoya slowly walked away. Maybe she had learned something. Maybe not. But for Sarah, it didn't matter anymore. She was free. That night, Sarah sat with Rayan in the office. You still want me to work with you? She asked, smiling. Rayan laughed. More than ever. Sarah looked at the city lights. I don't want to stay silent ever again. You won't, Rayan said. Because now, people will listen. Sarah sat alone at her rooftop that night. The stars above were silent, but her heart was loud. Zoya had not just slapped her in a restaurant. She had destroyed her mother's career. She had stolen Rayan's dream. And now she was walking around like a queen, proud, powerful, and untouchable. But not anymore. This time, someone was going to fight back. Next morning, Sarah met Rayan at the office. She placed the old photo on his desk. My mother told me everything, she said. Zoya ruined her life too. Rayan listened quietly. I knew it, he said. Zoya always climbed by pushing others down. Sarah looked determined. What do we do now? Rayan leaned forward. We don't scream. We don't slap back. We use her own game. Business, proof, power. Sarah nodded. I'm ready. The plan started slowly. Rayan had already been watching Zoya's business for months. Her company looked strong from the outside, but it was cracking from inside. She had taken too many loans. She was hiding numbers, and she was treating employees badly, just like she treated Sarah. Rayan and Sarah began collecting evidence. Emails, old contracts, witnesses. Sarah even met 2 old workers from Zoya's company. Both had been fired unfairly. One of them was crying. She called me garbage, the woman said, just because I wore old shoes. Sarah held her hand. She said the same to me. The pain wasn't just hers. Zoya had hurt many people. Now, they were all coming together. One afternoon, Ryan showed Sarah the legal file. "With this," he said, "we can file a complaint. If we win, she will lose her business license." Sarah looked at the file. She had never imagined holding such power in her hands. "But she's rich," she whispered. "She will fight back." Ryan smiled. "So will we." Sarah took a deep breath. "Let's do it. Not just for me. For Miami. For every girl she insulted." Meanwhile, Zoya sat in her luxury office, sipping coffee and yelling at her secretary. "Why is this report late? And who is this Sarah I keep hearing about?" The secretary looked nervous. She used to work at the cafe. Now she works with Mr. Ryan. Zoya's eyes narrowed. "Ryan," she repeated. "That man again." She stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the city looked small, but something felt wrong. She didn't know it yet, but the walls were closing in. A week later, Sarah and Ryan visited a small court office. They submitted all the documents, quietly, legally, carefully. No drama, just truth. As they left the office, Sarah looked at Ryan. "Do you think she'll lose everything?" she asked. Ryan replied, "I don't know, but she'll finally feel what we felt. Fear, shame, and loss." Sarah nodded, "And we'll feel peace." That evening, Zoya received a legal notice at her house. Her hands shook as she read it. She picked up her phone and dialed fast. "Who is behind this?" she screamed. "I want names." But deep inside, she already knew. Ryan. And that girl, Sarah. Her past was back. And this time, it wasn't begging. It was fighting. Later that night, Zoya drove to an old street she hadn't seen in years. She stopped in front of a small house. A woman opened the door. It was Sarah's mother. Zoya stared at her, shocked. "You?" she whispered. Sarah's mother looked calm. "Yes, it's me." Zoya's voice cracked. "Why now? Why come after me after all these years?" The answer was soft, but strong. "Because I stayed silent too long, and now my daughter is showing me how to be brave." Zoya's face turned pale. She didn't say another word. She turned and walked back to her car, but her steps were slower. For the first time, her power didn't feel real. Sarah could not stop thinking about the file. Zoya Malik, the woman who slapped her, the woman who shouted like she ruled the world. And now, her company was failing. It didn't make sense. Why would someone so powerful be in trouble? Why was that file in Ryan's office? And most of all, what secret was he hiding? The next morning, Sarah entered the office early. She was trying to stay focused on her work, but her mind kept going back to the folder. Ryan came in, holding a coffee cup. "You look tired," he said. Sarah looked up, just thinking. Ryan smiled softly, still thinking about her. Sarah nodded. "I want to understand. Why does she act like that? Why did she hit me? Why do you have her file?" Ryan paused. He looked out the window for a moment before speaking. "She wasn't always like this, Sarah. A long time ago, Zoya was different." Sarah listened carefully. Flashback, 12 years ago. Zoya was young, smart, and full of life. She and Ryan studied at the same college. They were best friends. Some said they were more than that. They both came from simple families, and they dreamed of building a future together. Ryan wanted to start a small company. Zoya believed in him. She helped him with ideas, accounts, even designs. Everything was going well, until something happened. A big investor offered them money, but only under Zoya's name. Ryan trusted her. She took the offer and disappeared. One day, she was there. The next day, gone, with the money, the papers, and the dream they built together. She became rich overnight. But she never came back. Not even a goodbye. Sarah listened with wide eyes. "She betrayed you." Ryan nodded. "She didn't just take the money. She took everything. But why didn't you stop her? Sarah asked. I tried, he replied. But people change when they taste power. And I didn't want to fight dirty. I just started over. Sarah stayed quiet. It was hard to believe. The same woman who slapped her had once been trusted by this kind man. She was your past, Sarah said. But what does she have to do with me? Ryan looked at her, serious now. That's what I'm trying to find out, he said. Because you're not just anyone, Sarah. Sarah frowned. What do you mean? Ryan got up and pulled out an old photo from his drawer. He gave it to her. Sarah took it in her hands and stared. It was a picture of two women. One looked just like Zoya when she was young. The other looked like her mother. Sarah's eyes widened. That's my Annie. Ryan nodded. Yes. They knew each other. They worked in the same office. That's where Zoya started. Sarah felt dizzy. Why didn't my mother tell me? Maybe she wanted to protect you, Ryan said. Or maybe she was hiding something. Sarah shook her head. No, my Amy is kind. She would never lie. Ryan placed a hand on her shoulder. I believe you. But we need to know the full truth, because something tells me you and Zoya are more connected than you think. That evening, Sarah sat beside her mother's bed. Amy, do you know someone named Zoya Malik? Her mother froze. Sarah saw it. The way her hands gripped the blanket. Her eyes turned away. Why are you asking? Sarah gently placed the photo in her mother's lap. I saw this. At work. Her mother stared at the photo for a long time. Then, her voice came out, low, tired, and full of something deeper than pain. She was my friend, my closest friend. Sarah waited. Her mother continued. We worked in the same office. We shared lunch. We shared secrets. But one day, she changed. She did something bad. What did she do, Amy? Sarah asked softly. Her mother's eyes filled with tears. She blamed me for something I didn't do. I lost my job. We lost everything after that. Sarah felt like the floor had dropped under her. So it wasn't just a slap. It wasn't just a rich woman shouting. This was personal. Zoya had destroyed her mother's life. And now, she had humiliated her daughter too. Sarah stood up, fire in her eyes. No more silence. Her mother looked worried. What are you going to do? Sarah took a deep breath. She thinks we're weak, but she doesn't know. We remember everything.